Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the League Adventures podcast with myself, Jesse, and Trav. Welcome back, mate. Missed you on Monday. How are you?
Yeah, going well, thanks. Yeah, no, missed you boys too, but I did catch up on the podcast. So yeah, good job for everybody.
Cheers, mate. Well, I suppose me and Joel touched on obviously our rounds that were and the scores that we got and everything. I can go over mine again, but I suppose everyone's more interested in yours, mate. How did you go last week?
Oh, what did Joel say? I shit the bed and wanted to avoid the podcast, I think. So
Yeah, you said you were
yeah,
scared.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, shit the bed and got scared or something, I think he said. So yeah, that's not at all what happened. But anyways,
Yeah, don't let the truth get
um,
in the way of a good story, you know.
um, So I got 1,183 last week. Thought that had been a pretty good score. I didn't, with a couple of low um, scores throughout. I thought that wasn't going to be too bad, but I actually dropped ranks and saw the red arrows. So I dropped 380 ranks to 13,577. So yeah, I dropped the 380. What was disappointing? The disappointing scores for me last week was the Dom Young 29, the JC Campbell because he's in my fullback with the duels that I played to get Sharp out of my team so I could get Cleary a couple of weeks ago. I think the JC at fullback with a 45 was a bit of a killer. And I got like the 44 from Nicara, the injury to Katoa. So yeah,
Yeah,
they were sitting around those 40-point marks. I missed out on the Porter. Got lucky enough. I reckon my MVP for last week was Maxi Plath with a nice 95. So I was pretty happy that I played him and
yeah,
put him up. But
really good.
so thought that was pretty happy. I'm a bit disappointed. And I say disappointed, but I've also not spoken very highly of this position for the last few weeks. But I'm disappointed in my hookers, particularly in Reed Marnie with another low score as of 41. So, but not something I'm going to fix because I don't have trades. I've only got 3 left, still 140,000 to play with. So, yeah, that was my review last weekend.
Yeah, no, I think with the players that you scored low with, they're so heavily owned. You know, we all did. I don't have Dom Young, but you know, I copped it with Katoa as well. Campbell, you know what I mean? Like there was a fair few 40s this week, Nakora too. Like it wasn't ideal, but at least he didn't have Pap. At least he didn't have an 11. So
Yes,
don't be too
yes,
disappointed.
yes.
Um,
No, that's
yeah,
true.
I scored 1172, and I dropped rank as well. So it wasn't fantastic, but 2707 at the moment. Hoping for some green this week. Um, Fingers crossed anyway. I just can't get past 2.5K. It's just hit a wall. But we'll talk on team lists. Obviously, last week there was freaking injuries everywhere. It was just carnage. Team list kind of reflects a little bit of it too. We'll just have to wait and see. There's a lot of players that are still, you know, awaiting fitness tests and everything else to come back through. But the first game of the week that we've got is the Rabbits and the Storm. So just with the Rabbits, Cody Walker's expected back through as well, and they shuffled the bench around too. So obviously last week there was no bench hooker. Mamazelis was out. He's back on the bench with Shakai Mitchell, um, and yeah, that's pretty much it for the Rabbits. Um, been enjoying the extended minutes through Cook. It's been really good. And for Melbourne, a couple of things here. Obviously, the big exclusion is Eli Katoa is out with a knee injury. Um, Hopefully, just 1 week. I haven't heard a great deal about it, but that just sees a bit of a shuffle. You've got Nelson at lock, and you got Trent Loiero back in the second row like he was last season. So a few things changing around there. Anything but these two?
Yeah, so I I feel like Pappenhausen's a trade out. If you've got 4 or 5 trades, I feel Pappenhausen's a trade out. So
If you've got
so
one trade, I reckon he's a trade out.
certainly look at that. Quick news: I have heard a little bit about Katoa and I'm pretty confident that he's only going to miss one. Remember that he had his knee injury. He went off. He didn't play 80 on the weekend, but he did come back. So
Yeah,
and played out. So I'm not too concerned about Katoa and feel like I feel like he's a hold for at least the next 2 weeks anyway. So, if anything, he was probably going to be rested. So maybe this is used as his resting time and then he plays the rest of the year out. So I think that's a good hold. How bloody good was Harry Grant last week with his 119? Geez, I'm very
Animal.
tempted to try and find him for the rest for this run home. But yeah, and I'm a Cody Walker owner. So hello, come back into my team. Although I'm not confident that he plays. I think it's still a bit of a fitness test on his calf there. So just bear that in mind.
Yeah, and especially against Melbourne too. It's almost like, do you really want him back this week? It's
Yeah, that's
not
right.
ideal.
Yeah, that's right. But they do need to win. So, they're still fighting and mathematically aren't out of the finals yet. But so
Yep.
maybe he comes in. I think the Mamazellus move to the bench is a little bit scary for Cook owners. And Cook's been pretty good recently, or very good recently. So I think that's quite scary. So I think watch that space pretty carefully, Cook owners.
Yep, I think so as well. Unfortunately, one more loss and it's basically pack it up for the year. And I reckon, obviously, considering Cook's not going to be there, Mamzell's probably gets a few more minutes. And don't know if it sees Cook on the bench at all, but I just reckon it splits them almost in half, unfortunately. So, on to the next game. Titans and the Sharks. So not a great deal of changes here for the Titans. You've really only got the one notable one. Bo Thermal got some kidney bruising, so he's out this week, and Cleese Haas fills in for him. Outside of that, it's unchanged. For the Sharks, a few changes. Obviously, Trindle looks like he tweaked his hammy. Um, I'd say minor too. Didn't really. He played for a little while after he done it, and obviously didn't finish the game out. But hammies are always a bit of a tricky one. But that sees Blake Brayley go to the halves. Cameron and McInnes in the 9, and Jack Williams at lock. So smidge of a shuffle there, but like McInnes at 9 is fantastic, I reckon, as well. And Williams can probably do a job. I think their lock is just pretty standard stuff. Hamlin is missing out too, and Jaden Beryl's on the bench, so he could get his second game. Anything of note with the Titans and the Sharks, my friend?
I'm a little concerned of the Nickera's last couple of scores, both in the 40s, all base,
Yep.
no attacking. I think that's concerning. I think it's a luxury trade still. I think Nickera's got potential. Maybe he's for big scores. We saw that through the middle of the year, which is why we all brought him in. Yeah, I'm a bit concerned by that. And Trindle coming out, hopefully, well, for 1 or 2 weeks, I think. I actually think that's going to have even more of an impact on him. So I'm a bit concerned by that, but I'm going to hold him because I'm not flush for trades.
Yep.
How bloody good is Kale Iro now that he's getting, or Iro now that he's getting attacking stats? Man, what a monster. What a monster. So, like, he was always going to be a keep in my team. He was never going out, but geez, I didn't think that he'd be putting up 90s like he has been. So, God, I love that.
Yep.
I am slightly concerned about Jaden Campbell and hoping that this 1 week up, 1 week down roller coaster is not something that is going to keep going because, he was my ride for I don't want a dude who averages 80. I want a dude who gets 80 every week. So I don't want 120 and then 40 and then it averages out to that. So, I'm a bit concerned by that. And there's some decent options in the 5'8". Burton really showed last week that he's there, and obviously Munster. So that's concerning. And then the Bo Firma injury, that's a bit of a killer. That's a big blow.
Yeah, he's been very solid, Bo Fermor. Obviously the Titans found a lot of luck going right last week, and to be fair, like Jaden Campbell didn't really get too much of an attack. He scored 45, and you got Burton scoring 50 odd. You got Munster scoring 65 or something like that. So it's not far away. It's not far off him, but the ceiling upwards really high for him. That you've seen in the last few games. Admittedly, against quite lowly ladder position teams, their draw doesn't get easier from here. But
yeah, I just want to talk about one more, if that's all right.
Sure. Yeah, of
So
course.
their draw, the Titans draw. I think whilst people are saying it's a tough run home, I think just that Panthers game and that Roosters game are probably the real tough ones. I think they can still score against the Roosters, but geez, how bloody good is Keeney. How
Oh,
good is he?
jeez.
God damn.
He's a gun. He's a bona
Yes,
fide gun.
yes.
Lock and
And like
load. Yeah.
if you were able to, if you had to keep him, or if you could have kept him through, AJ Brinson coming back, and you dealt with that little 20 that he's got. Since coming back, he's got those 260s, and then he got 100 and something, like 120 odd last week. Like, yeah, God, he's good. He's on my radar for next year as a bit of a low, a cheap, a sort of semi-cheap option in fullback as my number 2 fullback.
I don't think he's going to be very cheap. That's the problem. I suppose compared to the 900Ks that we're going to get next year in like Teddy and
I feel he'll be
Turbo.
in that 600 range. So he'll be
Well,
at high 600s.
it'll just go off his average, and then
Yep.
whatever the magic number's going to be. So, um, I suppose it just depends on what he's going to be averaging by the end of the season, and if Brimson gets his fullback spot back,
I just
ultimately, like
don't.
if
I
he,
just think. I think he's played this. I think he's played this year out as they know. Like, have a look at how bloody good they're going. It just somewhat
yeah, like
coincides with him playing at fullback, eh?
yeah, every time. So at the moment, he's averaging 71.7, with a last 3 round average of 85, and go back a few more weeks before Brimson got back, and it was a 150, a 112.
Yep,
Couple
that's
of
what
weeks
we all
back, it was
brought him in for.
132. So they're huge, and exactly that's when you sort of had him in your side. So um, yeah, man, he's just a weapon. The Titans can't really afford to not have him at fullback. I think with um, how reliable he is and how good he can score for the team, not necessarily just Supercoach, but how well he is playing for the team and how much they've picked up. You have to keep him there. We say
Yep.
every week. But then where does Brimson come into play? So I think we'll just keep an eye out in the off season. If they're working out different combinations and they've got him lined up somewhere else, I think Keeney could be fantastic because they're only going to get better next year. The Titans when Tino's back.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, right now they're rolling, and the Sharks could be tanking, so they're on the decline. I think they don't really get much better with Trindle not being there and having to put essentially their main hooker in a half spot. It's not promising, especially this time of year. So I suppose we can crack on to the next game. Bit more blood loss between these two. It's the Eels versus the Panthers, and this is always a big game. I reckon the Eels always seem to get up for it. So um, looking at the two of them, Ethan Sanders is in the mix to potentially play, but outside of that, no difference for the Eels at all. They're named the same team that they beat the Warriors with last week, and for the Panthers, very very similar. It's just Justine Laurie back in for Iongi, who did quite well last round, but obviously Laurie's the man until Edwards is back. So outside of that, yeah, completely unchanged, and they go into it guns blazing. It's always a good game. This one. Anything of note?
Yeah. So I actually still think Ryan Madison's a really good option.
Yeah,
I think they're just going to sit him in the 13. They're trying to sell him. So I think Parrott came up this week and said, "Yep, explore your options." So
yeah.
they need to play him so that they can, and we all know how good Madison is, but I think they need to play him so that everyone in the league sees that he's still a really good player and he'll offer you some play. So I think Ryan Madison's a good pod option there. My next question is Dill Brown matchup proof? And not only just matchup proof, but shit side proof, because geez, he's put up some good numbers recently in a shit team. And yep, they've gone to the Warriors and had a really good game and played. But yeah, I
I
question. So
think
I'm tempted to actually play him this week against the Panthers.
I would
And you
if I had
touched
him.
on it. You touched it on it as well as they get up for these games. So this is one of those games that they can get up for. Of note, I think, did I see the number in the 5, which means he's on the right side, which is
Yep,
well, there you go. So that's
pretty good.
big news. That's big news. So they've put him they've shifted him from the left and put him on the right, which is where Nathan Cleary loves to play. So yeah, keep that in major considerations for a pod play this week. Not necessarily got to get him. He's a break even of 136, but I actually think against Para, you probably want to get him and just bite that bullet of 136. So,
I think so.
and Casey McLean, not J McLean, C McLean. And God, what a weapon! What a freak! How
Oh
good's he
man,
been?
yeah, very viable play.
Oh,
If you have to,
I've currently got the R on him now.
yeah, so do I. I've got him up for this game too. And I'll just go back to what you mentioned, Dylan Brown. Yeah, he is matchup proof. He's one of the only players in the league right now that I could consider that like he genuinely is. Like he doesn't have a floor below 50. He's had one score under 50 all year, and they've been in a terrible side. The Eagles have been struggling. He's had no Moses. He's had to pretty much do everything, and he just makes his points. Like he'll find a way. The game that's just gone, he was on 15 at halftime. It seems to be the case for him too. Like I've seen so many games where you look at Dylan Brown, you're thinking, Jesus, this is going to be a nightmare. He's going to finish on 25. They're doing nothing, and he'll just get a try, or some assist or something, and he'll just always end up on a 60. Um, I don't feel like the ceiling is as high as some. I don't feel like even you got players like who's a pretty hefty pair up with him. Galvin is very common with a Dylan Brown ownership. You've got Campbell, obviously, who's just got the ceiling is through the roof. I feel like these guys have higher scores in them, but they also have lower scores, much
Yeah.
lower.
That's what I said about JC. I'm concerned about that dude that averages 80, but he gets 120 and he gets 40. And I don't want a dude who does that
Yeah,
often, whereas the Dill Brown, he's always going to get you 60. Like he's not gonna go less than that unless something dramatic happens.
yeah,
I just love that. In my 5'8" spot, I love that.
yeah, definitely. And well, you got Plath in your 5'8", don't you? So he's been a very
No, I've got
reliable
him in 2RF.
into RF. Well, he's been one of those guys that's been very reliable, consistent, 60 plus kind of most weeks. But ultimately, like the points total doesn't change if you're looking at your overalls and you just persist with him from now to the end. Like it's not really going to make much of a difference. But for your head to heads, like you definitely want a pretty consistent, steady, good score instead of massive ones followed by pretty dud ones. But yeah, no, Madison. We briefly, me and Joel briefly touched on it on Monday, how good of an option he's been, and how he's still a pretty good price too. And obviously, Cartwright hasn't really been lighting the world up lately, and not too many other great options. But yeah, no, Brown looks great. Brian Toto, massive option. I reckon he's so good. I just can't get him this week. I think if I wait a week on him and um, sit with the coin that I have, he'll drop into a price point I can get him at. So it's very tempting. But yeah, really good. And yeah, even still, like you got Luai and Cleary switching sides now. They're just doing these, roaming around, and opens up the field massively. And I think yeah, I think Toto's going to have a few massive games before now the end of the year. So, yeah, it'll be a good one, this. But we can get into the next game, the Raiders versus Manly. For these ones, Ethan Strange is back after sitting out last week for whatever reason, probably resting, but
It was a bit
he's out.
strange, wasn't it?
Yeah, a little bit strange. So he's back in the side. Danny Levi's in the reserves and kind of slipped between the cracks. Went under the radar. Zach Hosking's out for the season. Um, got a shoulder injury. I didn't notice that one. So he's gone and Sasagi takes his spot. So a couple little things going on for the Raiders and for Manly. Jesus, they got the cavalry back now. So Lockie Croker's back since first game since round 9. So it's been a hot minute for him. Ola Kawatu's back from his suspension. Hopewadi's back from his facial injury, I believe. He had the eye socket or something happened to his face. Saab and Garrick are both back too. So yeah, they've got some troops. It'll be a big game, especially to a pretty much full strength Manly side now as well. What do you take from this?
Hello, I held onto Ola Kawatu, so thank you very much. The Crichton bye this week and the Katoa injury has just come at a perfect time for me just to slot Ola Kawatu nice back in there and give him a kiss and say thank you so much. I've got very,
Enjoyed the
very
last
happy
2
about
weeks.
that. Hey.
Said, I hope you enjoyed the last 2 weeks off. Now we need you.
Yep, we need you.
Yeah.
Seeing Ruben Garrett back is music to my ears as well. Geez, I miss Turbo, although he only got 45 against the Roosters, Well, he got 45 against the Roosters. Everyone brought him in. So,
Yeah,
anyone that
exactly.
was in a highly ranked brought him in. So I was okay with that. But geez, I fear for what he's about to go and do against the Raiders this weekend.
Mm.
Which to me means that Garrick's going to put up a nice tidy score just off his boot. Ola Kawatu's going to run rings around Papali'i and the crew on the Raiders, and yeah, I'm very much so looking forward to that game. To watch my Manly boys carve it up and come back in to save the day for people who I know who are struggling to put a 2RF on the field without having to
Yeah,
make a trade this week. So that worked out for me. So yeah, I'm pretty keen with that. I do just want to option, and I think he's pretty highly owned already, but Joey Tarpany is still a really good play, really good option,
yeah,
and for those with Payne Haas having to replace him, he'd be a really good option if you don't have him.
yeah. You've got him.
I have Tarpany, yeah. I've had him for
Yeah,
ages. Yeah.
yeah,
I've had
yeah,
Tarpany. I've had the Tarpany AFB since early in the year.
yeah. Nice. Yeah, I remember getting onto Tarpany. I think it was around 15. I remember I traded Preston to him when he got injured. So whenever that happened, um, I did the old dual switcheroo and got him in, and he's been honestly very, very solid. It's been him and AFB for me as well, and Team A. So yeah, pretty good bunch to have. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like obviously Manly they're in a great position and they're flying, and it's good to have all these guys back. It's just you can never really count the Raiders out for making a team work hard for it. I think they put them to the sword. You know, you saw it last week against the Dogs. Like they didn't make it easy for them by any means, and the Dogs have been really good. They're a much, much better side with Fogarty in it, definitely. And Tarpany's just look like an absolute animal too. So, yeah, Raiders, I feel like I just don't see much from them between now and the end of the year, but I just feel like you can never count them out for just making it hard. So hopefully there's points in there for both sides because, got a couple of each, but either way, yeah, it should be pretty decent. I don't have Olakau'atu anymore, but I'm still lucky enough to be able to field a full second row, even with Crichton and Katoa out. Oh, it's not good. There's a lot of red dots at the moment. Um, we can look at the
Add
next one.
add
Sorry.
the Roosters by,
Oh yeah, the Roosters
and
buy.
teams are scrambling this week.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, there's low trades for a majority of players out there. There's a lot. I reckon a good majority are sitting with less than 5, and it's like, oh crap. Most people can't field a team, or if you can, it's pretty thin towards the back end. But um, look, I mentioned it last week, and I like to say it all the time. There's a Queensland derby every single week.
Yeah, you did too.
There is. I say it every time. There's one every week, and look at this: Cowboys versus the Broncos. So there's 4 Queensland teams. Like statistically, it's not possible, but I swear there's always one. So um, Helam Lukey's back in. So obviously, he got high shot from Justin Olam. Almost took his head off, even though Justin Olam's about 5 foot nothing and Helam Lukey's a giraffe. Still managed to hit him in the chin. So yeah, on that, Lukey's back in. Ruben Cotter's in line as well, so he's just got to go through another independent specialist meeting too to see if he can get named again. But he looks promising. And then I will wear the 24. They're retiring the 12 in honor of Carl Webb. So yeah, props to the Cows on that. For the Broncos, couple of massive ones out. Obviously, Payne Haas is gone for the season, suspected Liz Frank, but I don't actually know if it's been confirmed yet. And Ezra Mam out too with an ankle injury. So Josh Rogers comes in at 5'8" for the time being. There has been talks about Reece Walsh moving to the 5'8", with Tristan Saylor at fullback. But either way, I feel like Josh Rogers is a good player. He could probably just do a job, kind of just, steady the ship a little and let Reynolds take control of most of it. So yeah, that's where that's up to. And Xavier Willison gets himself a start, and God, he's a good player. He's an absolute wrecking ball. So really nice. I wish this happened earlier in the year. Not obviously a Payne Haas injury, but I reckon Willison could do some things here to prove a point for next season. I see a bit more of a future in him than I do with Jensen long term, but yeah, good signs, especially for draft out there too, going into your head-to-heads and stuff. If Willison's available on your waivers, I think he could be huge. Corey Oates has also dropped to the reserves, and Karapani starts on the wing. So there's your AE nightmare of dreams for the last 2 months. You got to start, which is relieving. what stands out to you, man? Besides, obviously, Haas gone, Ezra Mam gone. Just yeah, Broncos bit of sorts still.
Yeah, I still like Reece Walsh as a pod play. I mean, even with everything that's been happening, he's still averaging I think it's 85 over his last few. So I mean, he's still a good pod play, and I kind of like him if he's goes into the 5'8" spot. I feel like him with his hands on the ball a hell of a lot more and kicking a lot more. Yeah, I like that. I think that's a good play. I don't like the buy that they've got next week, but yeah, that's a good option. There's not really much else that stands out for me on those Broncos. I do like a shout out for Willison. I think I said on the pod 3 or 4 weeks ago that he's one of my players that I'm looking for next year, and that I hope that he doesn't play too much to boost his price up, because he's certainly on my radar. So I'm hoping that he drops away a little bit. But he's just, unfortunately, the injuries that are happening at Broncos, how bad they're playing, and the fact that they've identified how good he is, they're going to put the minutes into him ready for next year. So, yeah, he might be priced out of what my plans are for next year. Love Valentine Holmes. Get what I did there with the love and Valentine? Geez, I'm an intelligent man.
No, that's deep. There's levels on that one.
686K. He's got a break even of -17. He's going to go. The Broncos are almost as bad as bloody West Tigers for Supercoach points. So I think Val Holmes is in for another 100 this week at least. He's going to be 900K before we bloody know it.
Seems like it.
Yeah, so I think you're either going to get him. You got to get him this week. If you don't have Val Holmes in yet, and you've got the trades to do it, the Dom Young to Val Holmes trade is probably a good option, even though there is a buy coming up, and Dom Young's on a buy now. Yeah, I still think that's a good trade. For me, I'm pretty good. I'm set in my center wings unless major injuries happen. Touch wood. So I'm happy to deal with a buy coming up for that. But yeah, and I still like and still think that Scotty Drinkwater is a really good option. He's 706K.
Yeah.
Get it? Like I get that Ponga and Trebojevic are thereabouts, and they're good options, but everyone's going that way. Go something. Here's a pod play that could be different. Getting in a Drinkwater. He's a really good option.
Yeah, I love Drinkwater, man. I started with him. I paid 830K for him at the beginning of the year, happily, and ran with him for, I think, best part of 16 plus weeks or thereabouts until I think I eventually swapped him over for Teddy. But Drinkwater's a gun, and I really like him towards the back end. I think just any week too. I think he's one of those guys that obviously he doesn't play Origin. He doesn't really miss out on any games. He doesn't seem to get injured. He's just a mainstay, a consistent player. You can almost just run with him from like round 1 to 27 and just forget about it. And I'd be happy to. But the thing that's turning a lot of people off is just the buy. Obviously, head-to-head focus is a big thing, and you lose him for your semis. Like it's a big out, especially with no trades, and or if he's the guy you got to commit to, you got to get to that point, and then you just miss out for that week. Most people can cover a standard buy overall anyway. It's not too big of an issue. I think you could probably afford to cover Val Holmes a bit easier than you can with Drinkwater, going from now to the end of the season, just with the depth of fullback and center wing. But yeah, I really like it too, and I think he's they've hit form at a good time for the team, for the Cows in general. I think now that they're winning and they're back at home and they've got a lot of stuff going for them, there's every opportunity there for more hundreds. But yeah, I said it on Monday. I think, if you're looking at matchups and fixtures and you're targeting players just based off that alone, obviously the Tigers are a really hot one. You take a Tigers matchup every day of the week. People did that last week with Holmes, and you saw what happened with them. So, but the Broncos, I reckon the Broncos are right there with them. They concede so many points, especially Supercoach points too. And it's just the little things, the line breaks and the amount of offloads they let off and all that kind of stuff. Like that all adds up. And I would be looking to target the Broncos as a good matchup as an opponent. I think they concede way too much. So Yeah, it's pretty much do or die now for Val Holmes. I think if you don't get him this week, that's it for the rest of it because you're not going to buy him a week before a buy, and by that time he'll be what will he be? He'll be 800 plus by then, I reckon, at least with a minus 17.
Well, if he puts
It's
up
all
100, he'll go up another 70k this week. It'll be
he'll go up more.
750.
If he puts
Or
100 up, he'll go up 120k.
120. There you go. So yeah, like he'll be 800k.
Yeah, yeah, it's done after that. You're not getting him in from that point on. But it just means you got to commit to that buy in the semis and do some math. Maybe calculate it, see if it works out. If you reckon he's going to average 80 between now and the end of the year, even with a buy in the middle, is he a better option than someone like Karaz if you don't have him, or Lomax even, or Toto, because they're all going to be real similar. And he's the only one that has a buy out of those three other players too. So you got to consider that. Speaking of Karaz and Lomax, the next game is the Dragons and the Dogs. So for the Dragons, Terrell Sloan keeps his number one. So obviously he was in reserve grade until last week, and then had a really impressive game. Beat Storm in Melbourne. Like that's a huge result. So he's kept the spot there, which is good. Fair Guy's in the 18th, and Jack Bird, for what seems like an eternity on the extended, is still on the extended, and we haven't seen him. I don't think we're going to see him at all for the rest of the year. So unchanged outside of that, and for the Dogs, pretty well unchanged entirely. They've named Josh Curran. He did get an AC joint injury during the game, come off the field, and then he came back on and saw it out. But again, I think he's got to pass a fitness test. But no, outside of those two, they're pretty much doing what they're doing. They both got a result last week and have stuck strong. So what do you like out of these, man? There's a bit going on here, especially in the center wings.
Yeah. Oh, well, there you go. So you've alluded to where I'm going. I think Zach Lomax is a good buy this week. Like,
I'm looking
what
at
is
it.
he? What is he? 667k. He's averaged 50. He's still averaged 53 points against three of the best teams in the comp.
Yeah.
And he's got the Bulldogs this week, who statistically, Supercoach wise, are the best defense. But I still think Lomax is still going to get it. I think he's good for a 60 or so this week at least. So, like, I think Lomax is a really good buy. I don't mind that, and I'm very, very keen on that one. Jake Karaz is clearly a good buy, and if you don't have him, continue to get him in. We've said it so many times. I think we've got to stop beating that drum. Matt Burton, I really like at the 5'8". It's a good option for any of you Walker owners and the like. I think he's still a really good option. And what was I going to say? I like that, and I wasn't going to. This is not super coach wise, but you touched on it before. But bloody Terrell Sloan, he was phenomenal last week. Him and Sewer were huge against the Storm last weekend. Certainly, whilst I wouldn't be keen, I'm not keen on either of them for Classic. If Terrell Sloan is sitting in your waivers and your draft teams, I think he's a really good option because, if he's attacking ball and the way he played, I think last week's game against the Storm is a bit of a confidence booster for him, and he needed it. So, those two are good plays in that platform, but not in Classic, which is what we're talking about a bit. But just thought I'd say that.
I just want to sort of go back to that one because I mentioned it on Monday, and I feel like it's sort of gotten overlooked. But Jaden Sewer, I know it's not a flashy pick, and I know there's more appealing options out there. Man, if you want to think of pods, Jaden Sewer, holy shit! I had a look right in the top 10% of super coaches. He's owned by 0.4% of teams. That works out to be 60. There are 60 people in the top 10% of Supercoach that have Jaden Sawyer in their side. Nothing. Absolutely
You would have
nothing.
enjoyed
And
93 last week.
well, I'll go back and have a look at some of his scores, right? This is just going backwards from here. 93, 73, 88, 42, 98, 83. That's massive. in the first, I'll say call it third of the season, he put up just a couple of his biggest scores: 77, 94, 102, 78. He's got it. Like, he's been doing it. He's been putting up massive scores, like 70 pluses almost every other week. There's a up and a down, up and a down, and the downs are about a 50. You know what I mean? It's not too bad. Like, you kind of take that for a sort of down week. But if he's backing it up with like an 82 and 100 sort of pointer, that's massive. It's huge. And I just didn't look at him. I haven't looked at him once. I haven't even remotely considered the option for it. 659K, 60 teams in the top 10%, which is what we worked out to be 16,000.
Yep.
Wild, like absolutely wild for those kind of numbers. You put a different person's name on him, and people flocking to that, I reckon. So yeah,
he's got I mean, it's a good call. We've both alluded to it. 66-point average for the season, like a 3-round average of 85 and a 5-round average of 79. Like they're fantastic numbers. They're fantastic numbers. If you've got trades and you want to do that pod play, then he's a very good play. And there's a few injuries out for people to try and replace to get him in. So there is an opportunity this week to do it.
Yeah, and I know, like with the Dragons, you see it every week that their forward pack is on rotation. Like, they are always chopping and changing. You get Eisenhuth in, you get Leigh Lewis starting sometimes, you've got Fatala Mariner starting. But Sewer always seems to be the only guy that's consistently there every single week. So he's more of security than the others. Like, I won't be doing it, obviously not with 3 trades before doing anything this week. But geez, yeah, if I was sitting with like 8, I reckon I'd have a punt. Why not? What's the harm? The Dragons look good from now at the end of the year. They got a lot to fight for. They're in the 8, so
I'd probably do it with the amount of injuries that everyone's got, around 5 trades even.
yeah. Well, if you've got to move someone on, and geez, I wouldn't be moving Katoa on, and I don't think there's too many other second rowers with an injury. But I think the trade out for Nakora is super luxury. But if the attacking output's not there, again, you got to have a bucket load of
It's a
trades.
pod play, as you said.
Pod.
It's a pod play.
You don't get much more pod than 60 teams out of 60,000.
Nope. So
not even 0.5%. So yeah, huge. And just another one too. I mentioned it sort of last week as well. Jacob Preston, 625K. I just think he's a fantastic buy. I reckon he's a gun player in a very, very solid side right now. So there's a couple of good options at the moment. But we can move over to the next game, the Finns versus the Wars. So you'll break these two down. Couple of ins for the Dolphins. Pankai Jr.'s back. So he missed out last week at a late out too. He got moved to the 18th man right before kickoff. So he's back in. Nikarima is on track as well. So there could be some new inclusions, but Azarko is named. That's probably the most notable one. His ankle kind of bent in half and it looked like it snapped right off, but somehow, as a blessing to my draft team, thank God, he's fit and firing, fingers crossed. So I don't know if he's got to pass anything or if, captain's run's going to make the decision, but at this stage he's in. So really good things. For the Warriors, SJ will start again. Thank God. Obviously, I don't think there's any reason for him not to be, but he's retiring. So fingers crossed the team can actually put some performances together with him, or he can do enough to get a few performances. I don't know what it's been, but since SJ's been in the team, the Warriors have not looked good. So he's back in. Roger Tuivasa-Sheck's back in the centers, and Ed Cossey's on the wing. So a couple of little things going on there. Talk to me.
There's a lot to talk about, but I don't know how much of this I really, really think is Supercoach relevant. I wouldn't invest in anything in the Dolphins at this point in time. Too big a run. Too many things happening. I'm disappointed in Hammer. Hammer's been my biggest disappointment the last couple of weeks. Scores of 39 and 50, and I put him down as I really wanted him. I didn't get him, but I really wanted that pod play, and I'm very happy I didn't get him. But yeah, he's disappointing. I'm a very happy Max Plath owner and have been over the last few weeks. And he's still named. at the hooker spot. So I'm pretty keen against the Warriors this week for that.
Mm.
So he's automatically gone into my starting role. Injuries has obviously heard that have pushed that, but yeah, very happy with that. I'm also with 3 trades left. Very happy Isako's been named owner, but I'm watching that space very carefully. Still feel like he's going to be a laid out. So I'm playing that cautiously. Everybody do the same. I highly suggest, and watch what happens there with your 24-hour mail and some late mail. Because I think I do. You touched on it. That ankle injury just looked bad. It looked like that was almost a season-ending injury. The way it sort of popped and bent, and not supposed to do that. Bones don't do that. So yeah, I'm concerned with that. You're a really happy DWZ owner, aren't you?
Oh, I'll take a 75, but I am not a happy Dallin owner, I can assure you. It's been more heartbreak than anything else. So it's not a bad matchup for him, though.
It's not. It's a really good matchup, and it's at home. Yeah. So, look, I think he's probably a decent play this week. Again, if you've held him and continue to, I think he's a decent play against the Warriors. Good luck at retirement, SJ. That's sad news, but I love that he's playing. I think they're going to say that they're going to try and play him out for the rest of this year, so that's really cool. C&K's not interested. I'm not interested in his return. What all that does to me is probably affect RTS, and I'm sitting there thinking, why? Like,
yeah,
should just leave him. Just leave him at the fullback spot. Like, it doesn't, just leave RTS alone. I love AFB, and he's been really good. I have concerns more and more and more as they go and lose the game that they did last week and the bye in round 27. As to someone, I would not buy him. I don't think he's an option. I wouldn't be buying him as a replacement for Payne Haas. I'd be looking elsewhere because I don't think round 27 is going to be his last. He's obviously missing that, but I think his last game will be well earned truly earlier than that if they lose again. So just be wary of that. And Mitch Barnett is a freaking freak.
Yep, he's a gun.
Yeah, very, very disappointed I missed out on him this year. Did not once own him. Credit to everyone that has owned him. He has certainly helped your teams and pushed you guys up the ranks because he's been a monster, and he was good price at the start of the year. So
yeah. Well, I remember at one stage looking at him and Fanua Blake, and he was about, I think Barnett was about 500k. Fanua Blake was about 580 or so, and I thought Fanua Blake's definitely the option here. He's the guy. Didn't really look at Barnett too much, and then I think from that point onwards, he kind of just went, 80, 80, 90, 100, 100, 100. You're like, oh shit, that didn't take long. And all of a sudden he's 800k. So yeah, no, look, I've enjoyed every single week from Barnett because he's in my draft team, and I picked him up. I drafted him for his duel. Thought he would be just a decent play, 55 pointer maybe. Fingers crossed, and yeah, been very good. So hopefully I get to put it over Joel this week in the first knockouts. That'd be great. But yeah, no, I think you pretty much wrap that one up. There's not too many options for either side at this stage of the year. I think you just sort of keep the ones you have and maybe look to move if you got a few trades left over. On to the last game of the week anyway, the Knights and the Tigers. Phoenix Crossland stays in the 7. So
game this one's going to be.
Yeah, this is going to be blockbuster. Yeah, absolute nail biter if there was one. Yeah, so Crossland's still in the halves. Brody Jones is replacing Thomas Kant, and Saifidi will miss a match after going down to the warm-up. So not too much happening there. Obviously, Ponga is the big standout for this team. And then for the Tigers, Adam Dewey makes his return into the centres for Justin Olam, who is getting double knee surgery off the back of his 4-week suspension. So his season's finished. Aiden Caesar's back in with Latu Fainu out with concussions, and Fanua Pole is on track for a rib injury return as well. So a couple of little things going on for there, but nothing massive. You've just mentioned it too. Both sides don't really have too much to play for at this stage. I think the Knights are holding on for dear life. They can't really afford to lose anything. They're kind of just praying they can string another end of season form like they did last year, just try and get some wins on the board. But I don't know. I think it's a little too late for him. Anything to touch on before we start looking at trades, mate?
Yeah, at that point, which is why I am very concerned in Ponga. We were waiting for this moment. I certainly was. I said 3 weeks ago my plans were adjusted, and Ponga was my plan. Get him in after this week. After that Penrith game, he's going to bottom out perfectly. He's going to come. He's ready to go on my side. At 648K, I'm looking at that going, yes, please. And he's goal kicking. So I think that's fantastic. I just, as you said, have major concerns about what's going to happen for the rest of this year in terms of how they play. Because, they're more than likely not playing finals. So, and Ponga's their superstar. So he's their man. So I don't think they risk that. Ponga's probably also one bad head knock away from retiring. So we've got to they've got to play considerate and carefully for that. And so I think it's a really big buyer beware. I don't hate the buy with Ponga, but you're buying it with very, very severe terms and conditions, I think is probably the best way to call it. I'm not confident he plays the year out, and that's what you want, because you're bringing him in to be your second fullback beside Teddy, beside Turbo, that's my big take out of this game.
Yeah, it's a massive one too, man. I've been looking at this play for pretty much since I got Pap in, thinking the time to move Pap on is this week, and Ponga kind of falls in your lap with a good price. But yeah, I don't mind the 54 against Penrith. I think it's a good score overall. I think you kind of take that as good as you're going to get out of a Penrith game. But at this stage last year, everybody was flying. The Knights looked fantastic. He averaged 112 for the last 10 games or something of the year. Where this year, obviously, they're not doing that at all, and they keep dropping and changing the halves. The side doesn't look the same. They're not really there, but it's still a good price, and it's still a good Ponga. You know what I mean? Like, he always comes with caution tape. Everyone knows his history of head knocks, but it's the same thing. Turbo's got a history of hammies. He does it every single year. He's always injured, but you run the risk because he's so good. I think what you get out of Ponga is obviously his body's pretty solid. He just can't handle a knock in the head. So, and he kicks goals. He's got the Tigers this week. He's a good price. I think he hits his break even. I reckon he tons up more than likely if he's going to do it against anyone. It's this week. But yeah, the concern is the rest of the season. He's missed so many games this year. I can't see the Knights sitting him, even with the season ending and done. I can't see him being like, look, you've missed 10 plus weeks this season with injury. Have a rest in the last 3. Like, it just doesn't make sense. He's only just gotten back. So, I don't know.
I think it does make sense. I think it does make sense. It makes sense because you sit him out, you're paying him anyways. Bank him, sit him, bank him, save him, go and enjoy the next few weeks, have a bit longer of a pre-season, an off season, and you make sure you're ready for pre-season, because we're going to go. And the Knights will be all right next year. They'll be pretty good. But it's I think it does make sense to sit him out, but that's my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a tricky one. I wouldn't count on it, but again, you just can't rule things out like that. But as far as when you look at like the most trade in and out, there's not too much happening for Ponga, really. Like, considering the fullbacks around, the majority that you're going to see is Payne Haas and Dom Young. I think they're the more pressing issues, really. The most popular trade this week is Haas to Tarpany, and I think that's the best one you could do. I think he's a perfect replacement for Haas. I think even still, I reckon if you were tossing up last week whether you're going Haas or Tarpany, I would have gone Tarpany. I think there's just a bit more going on for him, and obviously without a bye and the minutes being really good and everything going on there, I've had Tarpany. I've been very, very happy to have him. But yeah, that's the most popular trade of all this week. So looking at about 4,800 at this stage, 940 on a Wednesday night. The second most is Payne Haas to Mitch Barnett. So I think if money wasn't a thing, obviously you look at Barnett, but again at the same time, like I look at that Barnett round 27 bye. It's just a bad week to have a bye, and especially when you're going to be sitting close to 800k on your bench for a week in a front row position, because that's where you'd be playing him. I don't love that one anymore. I just don't think it's a good time to get Barnett in. What do you reckon out of that between the two of those more popular
I would,
options?
yeah. Well, I mean, the fact is that the crowd thinks the same as what I'm about to say, as what you said as well, is that I think Tarpany is the better option. I don't mind. I like the Barnett play, but
Yeah,
I
good.
think personally, I think we're low on trades. It's hard to get cash. I don't think you need to waste that money from to go up to Barnett. It's what is it? Almost 200k. How much is Barnett? 830.
Yeah, I think so.
Uh,
825,
yeah, and he's and Tarpon is
826.
687. So it's
It's a
there's
lot.
it. So it's 140k saving. I don't. I like it. I like the Barnett play. It's a bit of a pod play, certainly, but I think this time of year it's a much better option to be bringing in Tarpany. However, if you are playing for your head-to-heads and you didn't pick your league settings is to play the grand final in round 26 and not 27, maybe that's what some of these people are buying Barnett for, because
Yep.
that round 27 is not an issue. So I've got a couple of leagues in my head-to-head that are finishing in round 26, not 27. So
Same.
yeah, that's a good viable option. So think about that too, I suppose.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't think Tarpany and Barnett score overly, too drastic apart, to be fair. I don't think they're very different score-wise. You might be looking at 15 points overall between the two of them most weeks, but for the price, yeah, I personally like Tarpany for it. Third most popular, yeah, Ponga. I suppose, this is the week everyone's sort of looking at getting him in. Unusual enough, Tedesco is the most popular trade to Ponga.
Yeah. So please explain that to me. Teddy's got to buy this week. I get it. I don't get it though. I don't get it. He's got to buy this week. I don't get
Yeah.
it. Hey,
I,
please have everyone trade him out, because I don't have him. So I'm happy to have more people not have him. But I don't get it.
yeah.
So you're a Teddy owner. Explain that to me, because I don't know.
So I reckon for the run home, I genuinely think the Roosters have the best run home. The games that they come back to after this is Parramatta, the Titans, the Raiders, and the Dolphins.
Yeah.
It's huge. And he's the best player in the game this year, in general.
No, Jerome Hughes.
Huh? Yeah,
Give me Jerome Hughes. He's the best. He's the best player this year.
give me 3 Jerome Hugheses, and I'll trade you 1 Teddy. Uh,
I'm
mate,
not letting
yeah.
your Roosters bias overshadow my Storm boys here.
Yeah, no, well, I've got both, and I've been enjoying both of them in the side. But even still, man, there's very few that can do what Teddy can do, and there's a lot of faith put into Ponga. For a night side that's been pretty average for a bloody Roosters run, that's going to be the best that you're going to get. That's 4 straight captains in a row, in my opinion, or very, very highly considering that side of things. I don't like that at all. I really don't. I just don't think Teddy's worth a trade unless you've got heaps of trades left over. If you're sitting with bucket loads, you can almost double trade every week until the end of the year, and you're doing it for a 1 week option. You trade out Teddy this week, you get Ponga in, you trade out whoever else you've got, and you get Teddy back in some weird little ploy that you get going. I don't see any reason to do that trade.
No,
Genuinely.
I don't say this often, but I will say this: I hate that trade. I hate it. For my knowledge of the game tells me that most people have five or sub 5 trades, right?
That'd be
So
right.
I think that's where most are. That you, if you're trading Teddy because he's got the buy this week, you're running. I reckon you're running a turbo in your other FB, and so you're sitting there trying to think, who am I going to play as my second? You don't want to go. You don't want to run a turbo Ponga after you've just traded Teddy as you to run your way out. I hate this trade. I hate it. Makes no sense. And I am not a Teddy owner. I have never owned Teddy this year. I do not own him. I wish I did. But those people that are trading him out are just foolish, man. It doesn't make any sense. It makes no sense.
Yeah, well, perspective-wise, he's owned by 52,000 teams, and only 3,700 have traded him out. So it's not a great deal. There's a lot of sane owners out there, which is fine to see. But again, 1,340 are all going to Ponga. 264 are going to Turbo.
Ranked in
So
the top 10%, dude, is he's the second most traded out.
yeah,
Oh, it's incredible.
I'll take it though. Yeah,
Oh man, I'm sitting there saying, hell yeah! Like I don't have him, so the less people that have him, the better
pretty much. Yeah, I know.
for
And
me.
I
And
feel
for
like
you people that are still holding Teddy because you're smart, you're sitting there going, "Yep, cool. He's going to turn into a pod, somewhat of a pod." Oh,
yeah, I think he's a fair bit
doesn't make
off
sense.
pod numbers at the moment, but everyone that trades him out is one less to worry about. So
That's exactly right. The more he does it, the more it becomes a pod.
yeah, man. So yeah, he's a very unfortunately he's a popular trade out for whatever reason. Dom Young is the next one that's probably the most popular out of the lot of them. He's got a lot of options too. He's not a bad price in the center wing, and you've got a few guns at the moment, just depending on who you either have or don't have in your side already. Val Holmes is a
Yeah, I
great
like it.
pickup.
Yeah.
Really good. Very, very solid. You've got Zach Lomax as well, who personally he's very, very hot on my radar. I'm leaning more towards Lomax than I am Holmes, to be honest with you. Um,
Well, he doesn't have the buy, does he? So he's going to play
no,
the extra game. So, in terms of total points, I think Lomax actually scores more than Val Holmes does throughout the rest of this year. But yeah, so I do think and I think that plays the better play just because you're going to have a dude who's going to play the rest of the year out, barring obviously something drastic happening.
mm,
So I do like it, but I actually I don't hate the Val Holmes trade either because well, he's
Val
just been a
Holmes,
freak recently, and he's Val
yeah,
Holmes. And
what's not to like?
as bad as and everyone has said, particularly like Joel's talked about it heavily about how bad Val Holmes has been playing this year. He's still as in Supercoach wise, because that's what I care about.
Yep.
He's the top scoring center winger. So
Yeah. Well, actually, just on that too, last week's game, after he scored his try, I think there was still 20 minutes of the game left, didn't score a single point. Absolutely missing. He was nowhere. So like his actual, his real world form. It was against the Tigers too, so they almost made it easy for him to get points. Yeah, he's not been great. He really hasn't, but he's the friendliest super coach game of all time, and that's what we play. So it's completely irrelevant how they're doing in real life,
yep,
as long as they're making points. So yeah, you've got Carraz, you've got I think everybody already owns Garrick, but if you don't, there's an option for you too. 2 to 4 weeks with a hamstring, and he's got some bloody long hamstrings too, with a history of niggles. I would say you're leaning more towards the 4 weeks than 2, just off my hunch. But if it is 2, either way, you can always wait this week if you're really, hesitant on it and just to see. But even still, I don't think he's back next week. I think he's probably back the week after, and then you've got 3 weeks left. So um, he'll be pod numbers by around 25 though, and that's pretty appealing. But I like the trade. I think at this stage of the year with head-to-heads, it's just not worth having someone, um, that sort of price. If you don't have Val Holmes or a Lomax or a Carraz in your side already, I think you just have to do it. But that's essentially like the top bundle of the ins and outs. But just going through some more of the outs. Obviously, we just touched on Haas, Young, Tedesco, Eli Katoa,
mm.
fourth most traded out in overall coaches. There's another one I don't like.
No, I don't like it either. But if are you running? There's a few things here that you've got that I can see people are playing with. If you're running your Crichtons and then you're a Fermor owner as well, someone's got to be traded out. And you're
Exactly.
keeping Crichton because he's back after a bye. So I can kind of see why, but I don't agree with it. In my opinion, I think he's out a week, and then he's in for the run home. And the run home for the Storm is going to be, pretty tasty in terms of points. So, I just you just got to keep him. I just got to bear with it and try and put him on the bench. For me, I'm very lucky. I've got as I said, I've got Olakau'atu there. So, I've just done a straight swap for Olakau'atu, and I've just done a straight swap with Plath for Crichton, and so I've got 3 2RFs that I'm really happy with. So
Nice.
it's worked out nice for me. I highly suggest that you owners who are trading Katoa that you reverse that or find someone else, because I don't think he's a good trade out.
Yeah, well, I lost him this week as well, and I obviously have Crichton on a bye. My other second rowers that I'm actually playing this week, I've got Dave Fafita and Britton Nakora, who obviously, guns. I will be, honestly, quite happily and very eagerly waiting to see what Ruben Porter does. He's my third player this week in my second row, and honestly, if it wasn't for last week, I'd be shitting bricks. But following a 98, I'm like, bring it on! I want to see what Porter can do against the Knights. Like, this could be really good. It could also ruin my Sunday afternoon, but either way, I'm
I'm
ready to roll
tempted
that
to put
dice.
the R on as well, but I don't think I will. I mean, for me, and we'll talk about what we do with our R's soon, but currently I've got my reserves sitting on Robson, Hughes, Marzu, and Campbell. So I don't think I can put anyone out of that for Porter. But I love it. I do wish I had played him last week, but I thought I had a pretty good team last week going into that. So I was okay not to him anyways, but it is what it is.
Yeah,
I
the ones
think
that played him, and Finu are the ones that had literally no option outside of having to play them.
yeah.
And it just worked out. You get lucky sometimes, and that's it. But yeah, he's he's a lock at the moment for me. I'm very happy to see what happens there. So, who else have we got in the trade outs? Bloody hell, Mulatalo's still getting traded out. So I suppose you just bide in time, seeing what options pop up to yourselves, and very well done. Ezra Mams, a 1,500 people trade out. I'm surprised 1,500 people even own him. To
Yep.
be honest. Number 7, Terrell May, 1,375 for the trade out side of things. I don't know. I just don't think front row is the position to be trading. Like, he's my third front rower. I know for a lot of people he's their main starter, first or second. And if you have, very little depth and you're not wanting to have to play like a Sam Hughes, or, you don't have another fourth option and your front row is thin as, yeah, that's where I see a trade for Terrell May. It makes a lot of sense on that side of things. And you just upgrade him to a gun for the rest of the season, even, him to a Tarpany for the rest of the year, you're going to have a starter. That's where I see that happening. But if it's a third option and you're just doing it cause, I don't know. Yeah, not really
I
interested.
like the trade out.
Yeah.
I think Terrell May's probably been a trade out for 3 to 4 weeks now. So, and now he's got the buy. So I like the trade out. I like the thought pattern there.
Turn him into someone reliable.
Yep.
Number 8, Tamari Martin, 1,300. Yeah, he's dropped. Like, he's got to go.
What are the Warriors doing? Like,
don't know. I genuinely don't know.
Man,
He's been their best player all year.
Yeah, he has.
Next to Barnett, and
what are they doing?
He's what a shame.
Anyways, good trade out. We don't know what he's doing.
Yep.
The volatile Warriors team, who knows? Trade him out.
9 and 10. Yeah, exactly right. Tyron Wishart, obviously he's on the bench now. Good trade out. He's about to plummet coin. And Ryan,
and he just dropped 69 last week, and even more before that.
Exactly. And Pappenhausen, number 10. 1,040 are trading him out this week, and I'm one of them. So it's unfortunate. I was hopeful. I didn't expect him to lose 50k this week. Didn't expect him to score 11 this week, but yeah, I think just off that, it's not worth the risk anymore.
I'll play a little devil's advocate for that and say that they're about to play the the Rabbitohs.
They are. Yeah.
I think I don't need to say much more. They're playing the Rabbitohs this week. I actually think he's due for a big game.
Well, they just
I,
played the
I,
Dragons at home.
I think, yeah, but I think the Dragons really played. They played really well, and they shut down all those holes, all those offloads, all those sort of wraparound passes that Pappenhausen that gets 3 or 4 times a game. To which helps get his tries, get that line break assist, get the line break. Sorry. The Dragons just played. They played really well. They shut them down really well. That won't happen. That won't happen again. Yeah,
I
I don't.
just
I see
I don't
why you
know.
traded him.
You
I understand, but
mentioned it the week before where you just didn't see it from him. There's something about him, the way that he's looking, that I didn't want to believe, and I thought I'll take the points and the try and the line break and the rest, and I'll take that as as a positive. And you found a negative in it, and then just seeing how he was last week, just non-existent. I was
mm.
like, he's just not.
Yeah,
I don't
well, he
know.
got 93, and I said after that 93, I said, look, he got 93, but like there was some damning evidence that said to me that, which is really concerning as a Storm fan, the rundown that Dylan Brown did to him, like
Hmm.
in Pappenhausen's, prime, you're not catching him. No one's catching him.
No.
So, but Dylan Brown ran from the other side, and there was other parts where he didn't run the lines, he didn't get through, he had no power through the line, he couldn't break a tackle, which he can do because speed is power. And yeah, so I did say that, but I also think that at 566 and he's playing the Rabbitohs, yeah, I still think he's still a hold. He could still be a hold. He can be traded out too. I get it, but yeah, I think he can still be a hold.
Mm. It is a good matchup against the Rabbits. That's the only thing that's keeping you around. But again, like, I've said the same thing about Dallin a few times in really good matchups. I mean, like, it's just a good one. I'll just keep him for this
Yeah,
round.
yeah,
And
but
then reality
Dallon's
comes.
different.
Yeah, I know. Obviously, you can't put Dallin and Pappenhausen in the same situation. But it's this whole, I'm just going to keep him for this matchup because there's every chance. But then you kind of, you pull them back away from the reality of the situation. They're not
Yeah,
right
look,
now.
they played the Dragons. The Storm needed that loss. They needed a bit of an ass kicking, and that's what they just got. And that was a big loss for them. And yeah, I think it's a different Storm team this week. It'll be a very
Mm,
different Storm team this week.
fair.
The fact, I mean, the simple thing is that Bellamy's pulled in Nas to start and has just said, you're starting, right? Whereas he's been coming off the bench but starting. So he's not been named as a starter. I'm putting Lee Arrow straight into the 13 is a great call. And I think there's some messages there that he's saying, yeah, wake up, we're ready to go. We've had our
Mm.
loss. We've had that
Yeah.
loss that we needed.
I think they definitely thumped the Rabbitohs. I don't think that's in question. I think it's a drubbing on that side of things, which in turn you would imagine that Pap gets amongst some of it. But then they come up against the Panthers straight after. So it's like, you definitely don't think it's going to happen too much there. I think that one's going to be an incredibly low-scoring game. I think there'll be a total of about 16 points between the two teams. Kind of like round
16,
one, where what it was at 6-0.
10-0. Yeah.
10-0.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
think it was 10
nothing
0.
in it. Yeah, there was nothing in that one at all. So that's the grand final, preview right there in front of you, I reckon, as well. So but that's the 10 outs. For the ins, yeah, Tarpany, again, we mentioned that Haas is the most popular trade out. Tarpany's the guy in, and good trade. Yeah, definitely get
Yep.
amongst it. Kalen Ponga, 6,000. So I'll just mention it. I'm looking at going Pap to Ponga. That's definitely on the cards for me. But again, I have that doubt. I don't know why as well. I do like Ponga. Started with him. I would have had him this whole time had he not got injured. And I know there's issues around it all, but again, you make really good points, and you hear a lot of people making the same points. What do the Knights do? What does Ponga do? This and that. And I think what happens is he comes out to the Tigers, he scores 100 plus, and then he's mass traded in next week. I think that's what happens. So
Yeah. I like the trade in. No, I'm not holding it against anyone. As I said, I think this is one of those ones that comes with some pretty big
what if?
terms and conditions and what
Yeah,
ifs. And you just got to read that fine print really carefully because it's it's written there for you with some cautions. So
yeah,
look, I want to bring him in, and I'll talk about my trade options in a minute for my own team about what I'm thinking. But the point of me talking in this podcast is to give my opinion to everybody and think, and that's where I'm sitting. Buyer very much so beware.
yeah, yeah. That's fair. Well, I did the same with Pap, and I knew the risk, and it's it's been okay, but yeah, it all comes crashing down when you scoring 11. So
Yeah, I
Bell
did
Holmes is number
too. I had
3.
him for a week and got rid of him straight away.
Yeah, I know. I thought that was madness. You just got him. You can't waste that trade. You got Fletcher Sharp too. So, well, that didn't work out too well either.
No, it didn't.
Bell Holmes, number 3. There's a
Love
Dom
it.
Young trade. Love it.
Yep.
Cameron Munster. I love this. I love it. I can't. I can't say much else around that. I just reckon I'm tempted to do it myself. I'm tempted to go Pap, move Campbell down, and get Munster. I like it. I think it's great. But again, the Storm, they're just going to rest. They're just going to rest. And Munster's the first person I would think is going to take a day off, especially with the groin and, finals and the like. I just think of all players, if anyone's going to rest, it's got to be him.
I don't think the Storm will rest him. I think what they'll do is he'll play games. I think what they'll do is they'll sit him. So he'll
Yeah.
either start on the bench and play the last 40, or he'll play the first 40 and then not play the second half. He'll play by results. If they dominate the first half and they're up by 20 or 30 points, they'll sit him and then keep him warm. And if he has to come back, he'll come back. That's what I think they do, because
Yeah.
he's missed too much of the year. The other thing too is to consider with Cameron Munster for you who wants to buy him is Pappenhausen, Hughes, Grant, and Munster have played 13 games together. So I don't think if they're going to rest, like Harry Grant will be in for a rest, Jerome Hughes will be in for a rest. But I think they're going to try and get as much game time into the 4 of them with those guys as they can. So, and playing together. So I think for those who are bringing him in, you're bringing him with that nous that he's going to be playing. You're bringing him in because he's showtime. Like, he's Cam Munster. He's the big show. Like this is what he plays for, and he loves it, and this is where we're going. And he's got that huge score in him, and he's probably going to keep going with some of those scores, and you'll see some of them the rest of this year. But I think again he's buyer beware, which is why I think Burton's a better option, because he will play all 80. He will play the rest this year.
Kicks goals too.
He is kicking. Yeah, that was my next point, is that he's kicking as well. So if you are having to go in a 5/8 sense to try and get somebody, I would be going Burton over Munster, just solely because of the 80-minute factor, and that the Bulldogs have to play literally every game. They've got to. The Storm don't. They're just. This one will be a statement game because they lost last week to the Dragons, and they played pretty shit against Para the week before that. So I think this will be a bit of a statement game. I think Panthers will be a statement game, and then once they get through that, like if we win this week, we're pretty much locked up 2 away. So the game next week against the Penrith will just be a bit of a finals dust up, bust some heads, get in through it, get your bodies right, feel what the prep finals is about, and then they'll sit the leg. They'll rest up the next few weeks. So yeah, I'm a bit concerned about that.
Yeah, no, it's fair points, but I think just on upside, on name value, on potential, and 535k, I think, yeah, God, it looks good. I wish I had more trades. Number 5's Mitch Barnett, so there's another Haas trade option. 6 is Tommy Turbo, so people aren't deterred by 873k. Obviously, I'd imagine that there would be a fair few of those 2,200s probably just straight swapping Teddy. Looking at the options that we've got, Payne Haas is the most traded out to fund him. But yeah, that's it. 277 overall. Swapping him for from Tedesco, and they're near identical price points too. It's just a straight swap. So for a head-to-head point of view, yes, if you've got the extra trades, if you do plan on getting him back in, and then running, Tedesco and Turbo is probably the best pair up that you're going to end the year with. But outside of that, it's just who is the other fullback if you don't plan on getting Tedesco back, if this is the last time you plan on seeing him. I just feel anyone that's trading Tedesco is literally doing it for the week. I can't see it being viable long term. But I can afford Pap to Turbo in one move this week. With the 345k that I've got sitting in the bank, it almost uses pretty much all of it up. I think it leaves me with 30k left. It's very tempting.
Love it. I'll do that over Ponga.
It just means that I can't move on Dallin. And that's kind of where it ends.
Yeah, don't really want to talk too much about DWZ. Oh, he's so bad.
This is why I want to move him on. That's why I wanted that coin there to do it. And then if I'm going straight to Turbo, then I just have to stick with it. And,
I think the Osako injury is a bit of a wait and see with DWZ. I think that has to play with you and what you're doing there, and it'll be the same for others. Everyone's gonna, if you're a DWZ owner, you've probably more than likely got Osako as well.
I don't have him anymore, so
yeah,
don't have to worry about the Azarko thing. I've just got Dallin rotting a hole in my head.
Zach Lomax.
I can do the Ponga and Lomax trade with 62k in the bank. Yep. That's what's on the cards. That's what my trade in is this week. When it opened back up, that's the first move that I popped in. But at the same time, I can also go back to Turbo and be like, "Ooh, that looks good." But as far as climbing the ranks, Turbo is so heavily owned in the top group. It's almost like both of my fullbacks kind of cancel out everyone else's fullbacks. It sort of kind of defeats the purpose a little bit of trying to make rank. Number 7, Zach Lomax.
Yeah, love it.
I'm a big fan.
Yep.
Even with the Bulldogs matchup this week, I think he does well. I think he can score well regardless. He just put up 2 good scores against the hardest teams in the comp.
Yep.
And break even's 87, like against the Dogs. It's entirely possible. We saw centers and wingers score in the game that just went on the weekend. So, they're not bulletproof. Like the Dogs can still concede points. They almost lost that one in the end, but they have been very solid overall. But I think, just with the talent, with the goal kicking, with the win against the Storm, I think Lomax does quite well this week.
Yeah, look, he's probably come up a week earlier than I was hoping for. I was hoping for him to be a really good option next week and beyond after that sort of Bulldogs game. But I think he's proven over the last few weeks that he's really a viable option. I said this already in this podcast, is that he's put up 2 good scores and still averaged 53 over the tough run. So, I think even against this week against the Bulldogs, he's in for a good score. I think the 60 to 70 points that is on offer for him is worth more than the 20 to 30k drop that he's potentially going to have. So I've said this many times and continue to keep saying that points are king. So get those points, and then you've got him for the rest of the year. So I would suggest bringing him in. Love it. Love that trade for everyone that's doing that.
I'll put one to you though. limited trades, say it puts you down to 2 for the rest of the season, and this centre wing that you get in this week is pretty much the last centre wing that you're going to be getting in, providing there's no injuries and you have to make an emergency swap. Are you getting in Zach Lomax or Val Holmes?
Lomax.
Just off the buy for Holmes?
Because Holmes has got a buy, and if I've only got 2 trades, those 2 trades are basically to cover injuries that I don't have. So I need someone who's going to play every week. So for that, I'm going Lomax.
Yeah, that's that was my thought process too. I just thought there's a buy coming up, and I won't be able to do anything about it if I lose anyone else that week. So yeah, that's pretty much where I am. But Ola Kawasu's number 8, so he's a pretty popular trade. I reckon Katoa owners and stuff they're probably flipping over on Nakora. Even people have sort of had enough of the 40s and they just want to get a gun. Ola Kawasu is 650k, like it's very, very good price for him as well. Harry Grant, 650k too. Coming off a massive game, 119. He's just, he's a weapon. It's kind of the Harry Grant you've been waiting for. But I don't know. I don't know if I'd be trading him in at this stage. What do you think on Harry Grant? Because he's definitely due a rest. Definitely.
He is, and he will be. He'll be rested. It will depend on some results. If we go and lose the Rabbits this week, I doubt that he's about to get rested. But he's due. He's a freak. He's just put up 100. He's been pretty good recently. They play the Rabbitohs. Yep, they've got the Panthers next week, which is a tough game.
I don't think
would I like him in the hooker spot? I would like him. Do I think I'm ready to not? Do I think it's worth me trading Marnie and Robson for Grant? No, it's not.
Yeah, well, as far as who his most popular trade-in options are, it's very hard. Obviously, I can't look at the Payne Haas thing as a more of a funding, but Reid Marnie is the most popular trade out for him as far as a straight hooker swap goes. And so is Api Coruscant, but
I've got other things that are a bigger priority than having to trade Marnie to Robson to Grant.
Yeah, and that's it, really, isn't it? It's that's the best score he's put up all year by some too. It's not been he's been putting up 80s, 90s, and he just hit a 120. He's been doing 50s and 40s, and pretty much what all the hookers have been doing. They're not that far apart. It's just he had a massive game, and they lost still somehow. So yeah, I just think it's not really it at hooker. We talk about it every week. Samuel Afainu's number 10.
I've been waiting for this to come up because I wanted to laugh. What is going on?
Okay, so look, I had Fainu. I remember trading Smithies to Fainu back when he was about 400k, and I had him for a good amount of time, and then I moved him to, I think it was Olakau'atu.
That's what I did.
There you go. So, and you know what? He wasn't bad. He was a good play when I needed to play him. He's a dual position, 515. It's not super cheap anymore, but it's definitely not expensive. And he's got a big game in him here and there. They do have a buy coming up too, and I think that kind of does get overlooked in round 26. But if you're just doing that trade because you want him, because of the big score that he just put up, that's kind of not the reason. If you're selling Payne Haas to him, you net 100k if it helps you do something else. But again, Payne Haas is your main priority, is your first option front rower. So essentially, Fainu would become a very high play in your front row. Again, I don't think it's bad. I think you can kind of get away with it because you take a 50. I don't know. I don't hate it. I really don't. I think there's other options, but again, it's just who is the other option? I know a lot of people, and it's a gross one, but they're talking Paseka.
I actually don't think that's a gross. Geez, that's a hard word. Gross one. I don't think that's
a little bit
gross.
though.
I don't mind it. I don't mind that. I'd rather Paseka than Fainu.
There's a lot of merit in the Paseka play.
Paseka's 305k, isn't he?
Exactly right.
who's still averaging 44.
With a lot
I'm
of
not.
injury affected games. He
That's
basically
right.
plays 50 minutes and scores essentially almost a point a minute.
Yep.
So I grabbed him in my draft league this week because I lost Payne Haas. So I've done that move in a draft comp. Obviously, Classic's a bit different when you have to buy someone and you're looking at prices. But again, like between him and Haas, you're looking at 325k. Like it's a lot of money to spend at this time of the year. You don't really
Yep.
get that much. So like that's kind of where I'd go. If it's more so a downgrade option for cash that you're looking for, I don't see it in Finu, but I see Finu as a viable play. But again, he has a buy, so yeah, it has its good and its bad. I just think there's probably a better option somewhere.
Yeah, I don't like it. I don't hate it, but I don't like it.
Yeah, maybe I don't know. I got a bit of a soft spot for Finu too. Like he did me great for the weeks that I had to play him. Like he literally did not let me down a single round, and then I
I mean,
boomed
it
him.
makes sense. You are soft and you do have small balls.
Oh fuck! Oh my god! Has Joel entered the room? You prick.
He'll listen to that, so I hope he gives me a shout out for that.
Oh, he'll love it. He'll be laughing all the way.
I've actually got that.
Sitting in
I've
his
actually
truck.
got that written on my piece of paper sitting here in front of me. But I had to pull that call out somewhere just for
It's on your
there it
bingo
was. You
card.
gave. It is. It's sitting. Oh no! It's on my paper that's sitting here. I had to bring it up.
Yeah, well, fuck. Maybe you know what you could bring up? Your overall rank, mate, before you start talking shit.
Well played. But anyways,
Got him. Nah, it's all fun. Well, what are you doing this week, trade wise?
okay. I'm probably not doing anything. But I have a couple of concerns in my 5'8", in terms of, look, as much as we talked about him being matchup proof, you always got to have the concern that Brown's playing Penrith. And I've got Cody Walker sitting there, who I think's a late call for maybe a late out. So I'll be watching that very carefully. The issue is that the Rabbitohs Storm play tomorrow night, so I've got to be on top of it. So hopefully work's pretty chilled tomorrow. But so I've got to be on top of it. If that's something that happens, I'm looking at Cody Walker out, JC back to the 5'8". I'll probably bench Brown and put JC on and trade Walker to almost any fullback I want, but it'll probably go straight to. I actually like the Drinkwater play as a fullback, so I'm tempted to go there at 702k, which it only cost me 59,000. Or I do the Ponga trade, which was what I was that's been my plan for 5 weeks now. So more than likely that's what I'll do, but I've got those couple options. That's pretty much all I'm looking at doing. That'll leave me with 2 trades and just under 100, well, basically 100k left for the rest of the year.
Nice. I mentioned it to you before. I like that trade. I like that Cody Walker out and get yourself a fullback. You know what I mean? Like you just want to move JC up if you can, get him out of that slot. And I think Brown is a play, honestly. You look at Brown's last games against Penrith, he scored a 65, an 81, and a 47. Like, there's his floor. You know what I mean? He's going to get that 50, I think. And the Eels make it hard for Penrith every time, even as bad as they have been lately. I still feel like they do it. So if I still had him, I don't think there's a week I ever sit him. Ever. You know what I mean? Like he's one of those guys, like when you have that sort of quality on your bench, like it's too risky to not play them because they can punish you at any given moment. So, but I just don't think that Cody Walker, again, they're very hard matchups, both of them. You got one playing Melbourne, you got the other one playing Penrith. Like that's just as bad as it gets.
Yeah.
But I still like Brown more.
But Ponga's coming in and playing the Tigers, so do I want those scores against that? And look, to me, this is sort of a week that I've also been banking on, that with all the Teddy owners and a lot of the Roosters owners, when I've only got shares in Crichton and Dom Young, that I hopefully can push up a few ranks. So I'm tempted to try and make maybe one more trade and just leave me with one for the rest of this year, because I actually really like my depth, and my depth has been proven this week when with the Crichton bye Katoa injury, and yet I can still run a Nicker at Olakawatu and my Plath in the second row. So I'm actually quite comfortable with where I'm sitting with depth and things. So I potentially could do a second trade to try and pull up a few ranks that I can get with the Roosters by this week. So I'm potentially tempted to then go. What I might end up doing as well is going. So my second trade would then be Dom Young, and going Young to Lomax or Young to Holmes. Or if I don't do Young and I keep him because of the Roosters' pretty crazy run home, Dom Young's probably in for a couple of big 150s there. I go Osako, depending on his late news, and go to Lomax or no, I can't go. I would be. Well, I could still get Osako to Lomax and or Holmes, which I can still do.
I would probably prefer that. It is a tricky one though, because you're kind of speculating Azarko is going to be injured and not play, even though we just know that Young is injured and he currently isn't playing. But I don't think it's a big injury, and I still feel like you get 3 weeks out of him, or at the very worst 2 weeks. But the 2 weeks that you get are against, I think it's the Eels and the Raiders.
Yeah,
maybe the other way around, but great matchups. So. Yeah. And like you just know that they're going to play those games too. So yeah, I would probably be inclined just to have that, because again, I just don't think Azarko's been hitting it lately. But either way, yeah, I like it. I reckon you've got some good options. I kind of said it before, but I'd be looking at going Pap to Ponga and Dallin to Lomax, but at least with one trade left for the year. Bit of depth all around the board. Kind of like my side overall, but the only issue that I've got is Damien Cook is my only hooker because Simpkin's been dropped now. So yeah, I just have to sit on one and pray I don't have to use it.
Yeah, and hope to hell that Cook stays in for the rest of this year, which, I mean, taking Cook was always going to be that liability option. I warned you. Everyone's been warned about it. You all knew that was potentially what was going to happen, but he was still a great buy. So
I've been enjoying the tons, man. I think there's been almost 3 of them since I've had him,
and the others it's 100% worked out.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, he's scored more than any other hooker has in this period since I've brought him in. But it's just the risk for the rest of the year. And I'll take that. He's still dearer. I can still afford anyone if I need to. But yeah, 98, 45, a 107, 63, 52, 111. Like, you take that. Really, really good for a hooker. So yeah, but that's kind of where I'm sitting. I can go Lomax. I can go Holmes instead, but I do like the return run for Lomax from here. I was very eager to get him in with Ponga from this point on. It's kind of why I budgeted for it. But yeah, if I don't want to do that, I can go straight to Turbo and just have to sit on Dallin. And I don't like the look of my centers when it comes around to doing that. I've got Karaz, I've got Garrick, I've got Marzu, Kyle Lero, Casey McLean and Jesse Arthurs, and they kind of fall off on those two. But McLean has been very impressive, so he's a viable play. But I feel like I just needed that one extra gun, and I just don't think, even on a great week, Dallin will, score a 60 or a 70, and that's a painful 70 to watch. So not worth it for me. But I think for the overall, that's a better trade than going straight from Pap to Turbo.
Like it. I like it. Like the Lomax, like Lomax, like the Ponga. Yeah.
And with that, I will be putting the C on Ponga this week. And I'll be throwing the VC on Cleary.
Ooh, interesting. I am probably just going to straight see Cleary.
Yeah. I just think, with considering how early the game is and the lack of options this week, I don't think the AEs are the worst options in the world. There's not many to contend with, and I don't know.
Yeah, for me, my AE will probably be Sam Hughes. I
Same.
don't like it. Yeah. So, or just Porter go and get another low score and not get the big one. So,
I hope not.
there's probably
Right.
there's those two for me. That's in the AE spot. But I don't think I'm going to risk. He plays Friday night. I don't really want to loop. What have I got? My loop options are Katoa, which he's placed. Oh, well, I loop Crichton, so I could get Crichton in and be a loop option. So, or Dom Young, to be fair.
Yep.
So I've got someone that I can push in to think about. But I'm just thinking I'm just going to ride the straight C on Cleary and say thank you very much because I think he'll chew up the Parramatta Eels.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
if I was going to place,
inevitable.
Go.
Oh, just with the Cleary captain, I think it's just, you can't knock it right now. There's no reason to take it off. I just think with very few AEs to worry about, and the ones that are there, like you can kind of take a 30, 40, give or take off them. I just think, yeah, you can run the risk. You're sort of allowed to VC it. The last games that he's played, 73, 109, 77. That's the history against the Eels. So, there's a 109 in there. Like it's very doable. And they're a lot worse than they were back then. So
Yeah, that's right. Other good options would be the VC Cleary into I think Turbo's a good captain option against the Raiders. I think Val Holmes against the Broncos. Drinkwater, if you've got Drinkwater against the Broncos, as we said, the Broncos are the new fantasy favourites again scoring point team. So. There's some big plays there for you Cowboy owners, and Ponga against the Tigers is a huge play because the Tigers suck, man. And against and with a Supercoach team, they're just the way that they play and how teams can just score against them. I think it's just lock as many dudes that you can every week against the West Tigers at the moment because I'm even tempted to do a pod play of doing something like Marju against him. I think Marju's in for a hat trick.
that'd be a good one. Well, that's what Tulagi just did last week.
There's some solid options. Sorry, say that again.
Tulagi did it last week. Murray.
Yeah.
On that same side that Marzu's on. So, yeah, it's really good options. And I think pod play wise, Marzu's probably a little overlooked actually for that one. He's captained by 0.7% of teams in the top 10%. So, really, really, tempting on that side of things. Cleary heads both the captain and the vice captains. 55 for the captain and 29% for the vice. So
just not wanting to play with that AE option. Yep.
Yeah, and it's fair. It makes sense. I just think if you get yourself a chance to, you may as well give yourself a second shot.
Yeah.
Especially in your head-to-heads, that's a risk too. Like this is a week where you kind of need to get it right. So, any closing thoughts, mate? I think we've pretty much covered all of it this week.
No, good luck in your first week of finals or your head-to-head players, and even if you're overall and you're in a head-to-head, good luck because good scores over your finals ranks is going to go very well to your overall ranks. And give us a comment, give us some feedback, give us some questions on the pod. Give us some questions if you want for trades. Happy to answer them. We'll get on there and have a look over the next couple of days. But yeah, good luck.
Yep, no, perfect way to wrap it up, mate. Thanks everyone for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one. See you later.